Good morning, everyone. I'm Madhav Pai, and I lead the cities program at WRI-India. Thank you for joining us today for Connect KARO 2021. We'll hear from over 150 speakers from probably over 50 locations across 30 sessions over the next 5 days. All of these speakers, in their own ways, are experts and are influencing India's urban future. So Connect KARO is basically our humble attempt to bring all of these people together with you in the audience, so that we can build a conversation, we can collaborate in a way to build a community that can addresses the big challenges that are in front of us as India urbanizes rapidly, quickly. And KARO is really our call to action, right? We want to implement, we want to translate big ideas, small ideas into action, and in a way transform our cities. So that's Connect KARO 2021. And I would now like to invite Shri O.P. Agarwal. Shri O.P. Agarwal is the CEO of WRI-India. Prior to joining WRI-India, he was part of the Indian Administrative Services and held various positions, including being the lead author of the National Urban Transport Policy when he was Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Urban Development. He's worked at the World Bank. He was Executive Director at the ISB, and he holds a PhD in Transportation Engineering and a master's degree from MIT. So with that, Shri O.P. Agarwal, please, if you can provide the welcome address.
Thanks, Madhav. Honorable Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs and for Petroleum and Natural Gas, Mr. Hardeep Puri. Our respected guest of honor and chair of the Omidyar Network, Ms. Roopa Kudva, our most consistent support, guide, mentor, and champion for over a decade, Chairman and Managing Director of Godrej's Boyce, and Chair of WRI-India, Mr. Jamshyd Godrej, my dear friend for many years and a colleague more recently, Executive Director of our Cities Program, Madhav Pai, respected members of our Board of Trustees and Advisory Committee, Dr. Ashok Khosla, Mr. Ravi Pandit, Dr. Navroz Dubash, Dr. Indira Rajaraman, and Mr. Pramod Deo, our esteemed partners, supporters, and well-wishers, members from the media, my colleagues, and all our friends present here. It gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to the 2021 edition of Connect KARO. As Madhav mentioned, Connect KARO has been our flagship event for 9 years now. We have held this every year, though the COVID pandemic denied us this opportunity last year in 2020. So it is indeed a proud moment for us to be able to resume this after a year's gap. And it's a delight to see so many of you with us. For the first time, it's a virtual event, given the circumstances, but we have done our best to make it a near real feel using a special conference platform. I hope you like it. We've noticed that the advantage of a virtual event has been that a large number of eminent speakers from across the country and internationally have been able to join us. Their busy schedules would not have permitted many of them to attend a physical event. Even though the pandemic infected many colleagues, and we even lost one of them, one of our stars, so to say, our spirits did not dampen. We did not slacken in our mission to make big ideas happen. Our young team of over 300 professionals across all our programs in WRI-India has remained as enthusiastic as ever in making a difference. We have worked with several ministries of the Government of India and with several state governments. The Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs has been our most constant contact, and that is why it gives us immense pleasure to have you, sir, Minister Hardeep Puri, with us. Thank you so much, sir. I want to use this opportunity to mention a few of the more promising initiatives that we have taken up, especially in the urban sector. These stem from the fact that the urban sector will be an extremely important one in enabling and accommodating India's ambitions of rapidly becoming a 5 trillion and then a 10 trillion economy. Cities are where most of this growth will happen, and cities are also where most of the growth in carbon emissions will take place. We recognize that managing this will be a challenge that the country will face. So to highlight some of the activities that we've taken up, to begin with, we realized that the process of master planning, which is a largely spatial plan, has been overtaken globally by an economic geography approach to planning. This approach mainstreams economic activities, jobs, and businesses in an entire region, thereby offering an overarching umbrella for more meaningful city-level plans to be drawn up. To demonstrate this approach, we are developing a regional economic plan for the National Capital Region. We hope this will enable us to demonstrate the usefulness of this approach across the country. We expect to complete this very soon and look for time from you, Honorable Minister, sir, to present it to you. We have scaled up our work on electric mobility to new heights and have worked closely with the Niti Aayog and several states to help frame EV policies and develop EV roadmaps. We have developed frameworks and guidebooks for setting up charging infrastructure and also design appropriate e-bus routes, which will be of immense help to many cities. We are working with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs to shape the new and exciting green mobility initiative taken up by them. Recognizing the need for urgent climate action, we, in partnership with many peer organizations, are developing a capacity building program that will seek to create a pool of 4,000 to 5,000 leaders who can champion equitable and just climate action in different sectors across the country. This will be a unique program that uses a pedagogy and a learning method that is best suited for mid-career practitioners. We have also set up a very strong data team. This team uses remote sensing and other data to create visualizations and maps to compellingly highlight a variety of threats and emerging scenarios. We hope that these will help in early detection of likely problems and help the government in developing appropriate policies and plans. Madhav will show you just a few of these today, but there is much more already available on our website. This is an activity we will continue as we believe that it is an important tool for evidence-based policymaking and planning. With this, let me once again welcome all of you to this 2021 edition of Connect KARO, and hope you enjoy the large variety of sessions that have already been lined up. Also, a huge thanks to the Honorable Minister, Ms. Kudva and Mr. Godrej for joining us today. Thank you very much. Back to you, Madhav.
Thank you very much, OP. Now I'd like to introduce Mr. Jamshyd Godrej. He's the chairman of WRI-India. Like OP said, he's been our constant guide and supporter over the last 10 years. He's also the chairman of the board of Godrej and Boyce Manufacturing Company Limited. Mr. Godrej has supported several peer organizations in India. He's the president of Worldwide Fund for Nature. He's the chairperson of the board of directors for Shakti Sustainable Energy Foundation and CEW. And you know, he's also, I mean, Mr. Godrej also was the chairman of the CII Sorabji Godrej Green Business Center and was a champion of green buildings over a decade ago in India. He's also been the past president of the CII and also the Indian Machine Tool Manufacturers Association. He was conferred the Padma Bhushan in April of 2003. It's been an honor to have his support and guidance over the years. Over to you, Mr. Godrej.
Thank you, Madhav, and may I welcome all the participants to Connect KARO 2021. And we are particularly honored to have the Honorable Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs and the Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas, Mr. Hardeep Puri, with us for this inaugural address. Thank you very much, Mr. Minister, for joining us. Really do appreciate it. And we are very pleased also to welcome Ms. Roopa Kudva to the inaugural session. You know, Connect KARO has been happening now for the last 8 years. This is the 8th event. and also WRI in India started out with Embark, which was essentially our sustainable transport program. And that was over 10 years ago. And so WRI has in India been a champion for urban development and really trying to make the difference that we can in working with the government and with all our partners. And I'm really pleased that we've been able to make the type of progress that you heard just now from Mr. O.P. Agarwal. And also, I think that, the theme for this year, which is clean, green, and just cities, I think also talks about how the type of transition that we would like to see is really an equitable transition. I think that is really crucial, especially in this time. We are having the conference virtually, of course, because of the prevalence of COVID. And I think the COVID has also shown us that the importance of health, air quality, and related issues when it comes to the urban built environment. And so I think that, it's really important that a conference like this can address many of the issues around the urban space. We all know that cities are crucial for our economy, for every economy for that matter. But getting it right in urban development and urban planning is also critical for the well-being of everyone who lives in our cities. So let me end by thanking not only the Urban Development and Housing Ministry and the Minister, but all our partners who have worked with us for these last 10 years, especially the transport ministries and the highway ministries, the environment ministries and forest ministry, Niti Aayog, and all who have worked with us closely over these 10 years. And we really are very pleased that we have been able to make this progress. And Connect KARO has been well established in India. And we do hope that the outcome from this conference can benefit all those who are concerned with the development of the urban space in India. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Godrej, for that address. Now I'll call upon Ms. Roopa Kudva. Ms. Roopa leads the Omidyar Network India and is responsible for overall strategy, investments, operations, and portfolio development. Prior to joining Omidyar Network India, Roopa spent 23 years at CRISIL and was its managing director and chief executive officer from 2007. She has a postgraduate diploma from IIM Ahmedabad and is a distinguished alumnus of the institute. In just a couple of words about Omidyar Network India, it invests basically in bold entrepreneurs who help create a meaningful life for hundreds of millions of Indians in low income and lower middle income populations. And to drive that empowerment, Omidyar supports entrepreneurs in both in private and non-profit space, both with sort of seed investments and also grants to organizations like ours. With that, Ms. Kudva, please, if you can address the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhav. Honorable Minister, Mr. Hardeep Puri, Mr. Jamshyd Godrej, Mr. O.P. Agarwal, Madhav, and dear friends. Thank you to WRI for the invitation to speak at Connect KARO 2021. I must begin by congratulating WRI-India for 10 years of truly impactful work. Your contribution to building the capacity of India's cities to use data for planning and for developing just, clean and green cities has indeed been exceptional. And all of us at Omidyar Network India feel very proud of our partnership with WRI-India. As we all know, COVID-19 has overturned the global as well as our economy and society. And cities and urbanization have taken a lot of the blame Many have suggested that cities fail to provide for their most vulnerable residents during this period, especially millions of migrants. And some have even heralded the end of cities altogether. Before the pandemic, some 25 to 30 Indians migrated to cities every minute. And as we all know, the pandemic has triggered a reverse migration of sorts back to rural areas. At a time like this, therefore, I believe it is critical to remind ourselves why, instead of reducing the focus on cities, cities must in fact be central to India's development agenda. And why is this so? First, of course, cities, as we all know, are the engines of growth and prosperity. More importantly, they are the labor markets that attract a diverse group of workers and industries. They spur knowledge and innovation. This in turn leads to higher productivity and wages, which in turn again attracts more talent. Globally, we've seen that countries that prioritized and planned for urbanization have achieved higher growth and employment. Therefore, India must put its cities and urbanization at the heart of its mission to create jobs and become a 5 trillion economy. Secondly, if we have to improve the quality of life for every Indian, and give them access to public services and social protection schemes, we have to meet Indians where they live and where they work. And increasingly, this is in our urban agglomerations. Both satellite data and various estimates have shown that India's urbanization rate is already anywhere between 50 to 65%. And thirdly, the environmental risks. Getting urbanization right, as Jamshyd said, will go a long way in addressing environmental and climate change risks. Studies have shown that compact, connected, and coordinated cities that design public spaces and transportation around pedestrians rather than cars are much more productive, inclusive, resilient, cleaner, and safer than unplanned, sprawling, and resource-intensive industries. So what are the lessons that COVID-19 has taught us from an urban planning and development context? We believe there are three. We need an integrated approach. So far, India's approach has been to engage with issues like public health, housing, transportation, water and sanitation as separate compartmentalized challenges. However, the pandemic has reminded us that all these are interconnected. For instance, in the first wave of COVID, the virus, as we saw, spread much faster in crowded slums with lower access to water and sanitation. And therefore, we need to look at cities as a living whole and plan for urbanization in an integrated manner. We need inclusion. The pandemic also reminded us that different segments of urban residents inhabit widely different realities and worlds. While many of us have transitioned to remote work relatively easily, the urban poor lost their livelihoods, were left stranded, and continued living in hazardous, crowded spaces. And women in particular faced the brunt of the socioeconomic impact. Going forward, urbanization must put the most vulnerable and excluded populations at its heart, especially those belonging to the bottom 60% of India's income distribution. We need to build resilience, whether it is floods in Kerala or water shortages in Chennai and Bengaluru. Environmental and climate risks are on the rise. And this, as we all know, is unlikely to be the last pandemic. Therefore, we must actively think of city resilience and build our cities taking into account medium to long-term risks. So based on these learnings from the pandemic, we believe that there are 4 key areas that we need to invest in to build inclusive and sustainable cities. And these are data, technology, communities, and innovators. Data. Most municipalities in India lack reliable data to understand and diagnose problems. High quality open data and research can help policymakers take evidence-based decisions, which is why we have supported the India Urban Data Exchange, developed in partnership by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs and the Indian Institute of Science. This is a tech platform that enables easy discovery, exchange, and use of public data for social good. We have also supported the Property Rights Research Consortium, who are building evidence and providing policy support on land administration and urban housing issues. We are also supporting a migration data hub to address the data gap related to migrants. Technology. Technology and process innovations can increase transparency and state capacity to deliver basic urban services. For example, our grantee e-Governments Foundation is working with MOHUA to deploy the National Urban Innovation Stack, which is an open source platform that enables efficient municipal operations and enhances citizen access across 2,000 cities in India. Another organization, for example, Transserve, is leveraging geospatial technology for city planning and improving service delivery. Communities. The pandemic has showed us that service delivery and disaster response cannot be the government's responsibility alone. Grassroots organizations and community leaders played a critical role as first responders and in ensuring delivery of essential services. One such organization, Reap Benefit, launched COVID Hub, which is a crowdsourced citizens network that supports local citizens and government in last mile delivery of healthcare, food, and income relief. Finally, innovators. We have to cultivate an innovation ecosystem that generates a large number of innovations in urban governance. For example, in collaboration with MOHUA and the Nudge Foundation, we have launched the Equal Cities Challenge, which is a competition to encourage solutions that can improve living conditions for the urban poor. The 5 most promising innovations from nearly 300 applicants were provided grants of up to rupees 25 lakhs each and access to experts for mentoring. Going forward, we believe it is vital to remove innovation bottlenecks in emerging areas like civic tech as well as property tech. So investing in these 4 areas, data, technology, communities, and innovators, can bring a holistic lens in our approach to urban development and governance. This requires all of us, the private sector, civil society organization, government, and philanthropic funders like ourselves to work together. I hope this year's Connect KARO will shed more light on each of these 4 areas and spark conversations and collaborations on actionable solutions that improve the lives of our city's most vulnerable residents. Finally, this work has never been more important than it is now. We are very excited to continue partnering with all of you in this journey. Thank you all again for inviting me and wish you all the best for the deliberations. Back to you, Madhav.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Roopa. Now I'd like to call upon Minister Shri Hardeep Singh Puri ji. Shri Hardeep Singh Puri is an Indian politician and a former civil servant who's currently serving as the Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas and the Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs in India. He's a 1974 batch Indian Forest Services officer who served as the permanent resident of India to the United Nations from 2009 to 2013. Previously, Mr. Puri has also served as the chairman of the United Nations Security Council's Counter-Terrorism Committee and joined the International Peace Institute as a senior advisor. Thank you very much, Mr. Puri, and over to you to address our audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madhav. I hope I'm audible.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Let me start by congratulating WRI-India for completing 10 years. And as the previous keynote speaker reminded us, to 10 years of impactful work. Without doubt, I think WRI-India has established itself as a pioneer in research and advocacy in urban development and sustainability. I want to start by congratulating all of you that you have a chairperson of such eminence, Mr. Jamshyd Godrej, and I'm not saying it because he's virtually joined with us here, But if you look at the kind of work you are doing and the kind of ecosystem of support that you require, I feel very privileged that you have somebody like Jamshyd Godrej and the previous speaker, whose brilliant exposition of what the urban challenges are and the work that Omidyar has been doing. I'm very happy. I can tell you, I have seen firsthand the excellent support which has been provided for the government, for the Global Housing Technology Challenge under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, and on other projects such as Amrut, urban transport, climate smart cities. There can be absolutely no doubt that India's cities, enabled by citizen-centric infrastructure and transformational technology, will be the key to achieving the nation's objectives. So we need civil society, we need all others who are doing academic work on specific areas relating to this rapid urbanization. During the pandemic, we learned a few lessons. And I think the previous speaker brilliantly brought out how this pandemic in particular impacted on the urban poor. But I can tell you with a sense of humility and some confidence that we were able to address that. The very fact that the Prime Minister's program was able to feed 800 million people, 80 crore is 800 million people over an entire year by providing the rations for 3 meals in a day. Also, that the other lessons we learned. For instance, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana has reached a point of maturity. We have sanctioned 1 crore 13 lakh units, but we discovered that there are people who come looking for work to the urban centers as part of an autonomous urbanization that has taken place. And we immediately moved for a new scheme, which is to provide affordable rental housing. And I'm delighted to find that this scheme, started only recently, has begun to take off. Equally, I think the ability to manage a pandemic also is going to be defined by the nature of your response. We took a bashing, we took a pretty bad beating at one stage, but I can tell you again with confidence, I was one of those as a member of the group of ministers dealing with the pandemic to say that, look, it is the pandemic which is the virus which is the enemy. Virus is or COVID is not the name of a political party, and you cannot do political point scoring. And I'm very, I must say, reassured to tell you that we are on top of the pandemic in terms, on top only in terms of the vaccination. The virus is a completely unpredictable phenomena. You don't know what shape it will take, but the fact that we have already administered what, 740 million doses administered. If you look at the populations of countries, take the United States, Europe, and you have to add a few, it doesn't add up to 740 million. But the good news, as my friend Mansukh Mandavia tells me, is that in September, total we'll have 200 million. October will produce another 300 million. So with, again, great humility and confidence, I can tell you is that by the time we reach end October or mid-November, we would be able to say, listen guys, pandemics are difficult to predict, as the previous speaker said, but to the extent that we can provide a response as a government, but that government response would be not even half complete if we did not have civil society, our well-meaning citizens, NGOs, and people like yourself joining in to make those cities, livable. So let me start by saying that I feel that this discussion on equitable, sustainable urbanization is highly relevant. India's urban areas will drive the economy in the coming years. By 2030, almost 70% of the national GDP will come from our cities, as rapid urbanization facilitates efficiencies of agglomerations. The best performing cities globally contribute 5 times more to national GDP than comparable Indian cities. We need to generate a similar density of economic activity from our cities to answer the calls of our Honorable Prime Minister of becoming, as again, as one of you said, $5 trillion economy in the short term and a $10 trillion economy by 2030. I am certain that an Atmanirbhar India will only be possible if our cities are productive, and I see that process taking place. 4 years ago, when I was initially inducted into the Council of Ministers, and I saw the staggering canvas of activities, I used to say, and I'm now convinced about that, that the Modi government has undertaken the most comprehensive and ambitious program of urban rejuvenation undertaken anywhere in the world. And as a small pointer to that, I can tell you that if you look at what our cities will have in terms of population by 2030, I used to say 600 million, but whoever has done the research for my interaction with you tells me, no, it may be close to 630 million. Well, if it is 630 million, what have we done right and what can we do more? Look, let me tell you, in the 10 years of the Congress-led UPA government between 2004 and 2014, the total amount of money or expenditure incurred on all the urban schemes was somewhere in the order of 1,57,000 crores. And I can tell you, in the 7.5 years of the Modi government, which is actually 6.5 because the urban schemes took a year in terms of conceptualization and drawing up, and they really started in June 2015. We have spent 6.5 times that amount. It is more than 11 lakh crore. But more than that, I think what we have got right, apart from the physical targets, is through our collaboration with yourselves, WRI, OMDR, other members. I can name quite a few. I mean, my friends in Bangalore, they're coming up and giving us ideas on how truly to make our cities actually demonstration hubs, and it is reflecting itself. If you look at the lighthouse projects, what are they called? The 6 Global Housing Technology Challenge, which we have implemented, where we are building 1,000 units in 6 places over a 1-year period using the most advanced green technologies. Also the others, but I'm also clear that much more needs to be done, and that much more has to reflect itself in the kind of interaction that we've had. During the pandemic, I was delighted that the smart cities, for instance, those smart cities, again, this is a project that started in June 2015, and we have to complete each of them within 5 years of, but the last smart city was, I think, announced only in 2018. We have about 70 integrated command and control centers. They acted as war rooms during the pandemic, and they were able to, both with the use of technology, not only ensure that we were able to access resources, but also direct them in order to meet the challenges that the pandemic has underneath. You know, I spent, I think, Madhav, when you introduced me, you perhaps meant the Indian Foreign Service, and maybe I heard you wrong. But I had the privilege of, 39 years spending in the Indian Foreign Service. And I can tell you one healthy debate, one that I was really proud of, was that, the United Nations system thought that the Sustainable Development Goals were born when the UN adopted those 17 goals. Let me tell you, that's not entirely the picture. But let me give you a little bit of history. Before the Sustainable Development Goals, we had the Millennium Development Goals. Now, the conceptualization of the Millennium Development Goals was done in the think tank of the West, the OECD. And they were successful. The MDGs became successful in the end because the MDGs succeeded in lifting hundreds of millions of people out of poverty, primarily in China, and with some help from countries like India, Nigeria, and others. But the Sustainable Development Goals, when it came to their conceptualization, I was one of those as ambassador to the UN to say, listen, guys, this time it can't be done in the think tank of the West. No, I like the OECD. Please don't misunderstand me. But you have to evolve your goals through citizen-centric interaction at the grassroots level. And that is what is beautiful about the SDGs. But what is even more remarkable, Mr. Modi started introducing the SDGs in June 2015, this whole business about, 11, goal 11 inclusive cities or goal 5 or, on women's empowerment. We started doing it earlier. The SDGs were formally launched. You can say that there was an interactive process and some of us were working both on SDGs in New York and in our capital. But by the time we reached the adoption of the SDGs at the UN level, India already had its coordinates and position. And again, I want to make a statement which might sound a little startling, but Mr. Agarwal, I've been a long-standing admirer of your work, and I can tell you, SDGs will succeed because India will succeed. And because India will succeed, the SDGs will succeed. Because there is so much riding on India now. Whether it is our cities, primarily, or the other sustainable development goals. Appointed Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs, somebody I worked with, I had the privilege of working with, Madhav mentioned the International Peace Institute, where I was Senior Vice President. Its chair was Kevin Rudd. He was also the Secretary General of the Independent Commission, of which I was the Secretary General. So somebody asked him, these guys are a little strange. Here you have a diplomat with 39 years of experience and you appoint him Housing Minister. He said, but you guys have missed the point. I mean, as PR, he was dealing with sustainable development goals. So the form and shape of diplomacy has changed. And I think that what we are able to do through Connect KARO, through yourself, not only with the finest minds in India, but through international audiences with which all of you are related and WRI, I think we're able to bring the best of practices into our, into our daily work. I could go on about, urban mobility. I could go on and on about the master plans, etc. But I think we have a slight time issue here. But let me take up a few of the ideas which are incorporated in the work that we are doing. On non-motorized transport, we are supporting public transport and non-motorized transport options across the country. Currently, we have 721 kilometers of metro lines operational in 18 cities and a network of 1,058 kilometers under construction in 27 cities. We are also looking at more affordable and more cost-efficient modes through Metro Light and New Metro. A central funding of something like rupees 88,059 crores will be provided to 4 metro projects. We are developing 10 cities as freight smart cities to reduce final mile freight movement, and we have already requested state governments to identify cities for this prestigious project. Under the urban transport scheme, public bus transport services will be augmented by developing public-private partnership to finance over 20,000 buses. Before 2014, we had very few cities simultaneously plan transportation solutions alongside their master plan. When mobility is lacking, poorer urban residents who cannot afford to stay away from business districts cluster to create slums, I don't like the term, informal settlements where demand for infrastructure outstrips supply. The importance of mobility cannot be overstated. So I'm very happy that all these issues, I mean, the need is to move people around, not to move cars around. So that very fact that we are able to look at this in a holistic manner, I think gives us satisfaction. We have synergized other flagship initiatives such as the Digital India Mission and Make in India Mission by recently launching the National Urban Digital Mission, which co-creates urban solutions through a shared digital infrastructure. But I now want to come forward. When the Swachh Bharat Mission was launched, I think it was the fulcrum of our urban this thing, because unless Swachh Bharat had succeeded, all the other flagship programs would have had difficulty. But the Swachh Bharat Mission succeeded not because we were able to meet the physical targets, but as I had an occasion to tell the Honorable Prime Minister recently, the Swachh Bharat Mission succeeded because we were able to convert a program of the government into a Jan Andolan, a people's movement. And I'm very happy that in the last budget, if I remember correctly, the finance minister had provided an outlay for Jal Jeevan Mission Urban with an outlay of rupees 2.8 lakh crores to ensure universal water supply in all 4,378 urban local bodies in India and enable liquid waste management in 500 cities under the Amrut scheme. She also mentioned a figure of 1.41 lakh crores for Swachh Bharat phase 2. I mean, Swachh Bharat, yes, you met the physical targets. Cities have to be certified as open defecation free through third party verification, not self-certification. But Swachh Bharat Mission 2 will look at sludge management, wastewater treatment, source segregation of garbage and reduction in single-use plastics, control of air pollution by waste management in construction and demolition, and bioremediation dump sites. Many of these areas were taken up by Mr. Jamshyd Godrej. They were mentioned by the keynote speaker. So I think we are all headed in the right direction. The challenges are formidable. I very often, when I go around and I find something which is anxiety causing, but what is reassuring is I take a photograph, I take a snapshot, put it on their thing, and your action to address it is immediately. Whether you're looking for an urban toilet, for which we have a Google app, or you're looking for other kind. And for those of you who have the time, come and visit us here. We have an urban observatory, which is almost using technology, able to tell us whether, like in the past, we are doing projects on paper, or we can actually see the progress of the project using drone technology or using satellite imagery. In fact, when we made a presentation, we meaning the project made a presentation to the Honorable Prime Minister on the 6 those construction projects as part of the Global Technology Challenge. The presentation was made using real-time data being taken by drones and other technology available, so you can see what is actually going on the spot at that point. So once again, sorry, I maybe overstepped my time limit, and that's why I ran 5 minutes late in the last program. But I overstepped it, but I also deviated from my notes. I'll have my notes put out, but I can tell you, and I don't say it just because you guys are here, I feel truly energized and inspired when I interact with a group like this. Let me wish Connect KARO 2021 all the best. I think you have got something like 35 sessions of different issues lined up. And what I will do is that if I can finish my next few meetings and I have a little bit of time, I'll just zoom in just to take advantage. So thank you very much. God bless, and I wish you more strength.
Thank you very much, Shri Hardeep Puri ji, for that inspiring address. I think we're honored that you were able to find time for us in your busy schedule, and your support really inspires us to do much more. What I will do is very quickly give you a glimpse of our conference platform that we are going to use over the next 5 days, and just show you some of these new data insights also that we are creating. So, you would sort of log in here with your email ID. Your email IDs have all been registered. You can then enter this lobby, so get a virtual feel of the conference. We are right now in this auditorium here for this opening inaugural address. There are a lot of parallel sessions. We'll also have these city-specific sessions where we have, city leaders, whether it's the Guardian Minister for Mumbai or whether it's the PWD Minister for Delhi. They will all join us in the respective sessions, and we'll have some city-specific sessions. We're also running a masterclass on electric vehicles that you can sort of take. You will be able to explore our work. So one, you can look at the detailed agenda and all of these sessions. This is the opening session, so feel free to browse that. You can participate in this challenge, especially if you're the audience, and win some prizes. and you can explore our work. So for example, this is the Nurturing Neighborhoods Challenge that we are also doing with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Or you can look at our maps and publications, something Mr. Agarwal also mentioned in his address. Basically, what we are able to do now with satellite data is just incredible. And I'll just show you 3 maps that we have generated that give us such fantastic information. So one is, this is the month of October and in 2020. And what we have done is we have used the land surface temperature data to understand temperatures in Dharavi and the neighboring Matunga. So Dharavi, which is a slum, which is densely populated, does not have that much greenery or water bodies, is 5 degrees hotter than the neighboring Matunga. And essentially, that means that as heat is becoming a bigger and a bigger risk, we need to realize that, these climate risks are experienced differently by people in cities, and we have to plan accordingly. The next slide is just showing you the density of jobs within 500 kilometers of the metro and 2 kilometers of the metro. So what we are seeing is about only 15% of the jobs are within 500 meters of the metro station, and about 75% jobs are within 2 kilometers. So I think it's very clear that within 500 meters, people are more likely to walk. And I think we need to push, as we build more and more metro systems, we need to push more jobs to come closer to metro stations, because, jobs density, as we have seen from global cities as well, if you look at something like New York or Tokyo, they have 250,000 jobs per square kilometer. Whereas, in a place like Bangalore or Delhi, that number is, 2,000 jobs or 3,000 jobs per square kilometer. So we should see how we can get more jobs density close to our metro stations. Then, this is just a loss of permeable surfaces due to urban development that we've experienced. So if we add up the permeable surface that we have lost over the last 15 years across the top 10 cities of India, it adds up to 300 billion liters of water lost each year. And so I think we really need to now think about how we urbanize, but at the same time ensure that the permeability is kept. So anyway, these are the kind of insights. This is just another last map where, Mumbai is going to build two metro lines. And what we are trying to see is that, this new node that is coming today has about 15,000 jobs per square kilometer. It has the potential to attract at least another 100,000 jobs. So how can we develop this particular location to become the next job center in Mumbai? Yeah. So, that's just to show the data. We have these 20 thematic sessions. And with that, I'd like to, just move to the vote of thanks. Again, thank you very much, Shri Hardeep Puri ji, for your inspiring address and for finding time for us in your busy schedule. We're inspired, and we will definitely push ourselves to make sure our work is able to contribute to the ambitious program that your ministry has set out, and to do more impactful, meaningful work. I would like to thank Ms. Roopa Kudva for sharing her experience, her wisdom, and also Omidyar Network India's sort of strategy to impact the 60% people, who are the sort of lower income people in our cities. And of course, we would like to thank Omidyar India Network for their support to WRI-India. We'd like to thank Mr. Godrej for being a constant guide and support for us, and at the same time pushing us to communicate our work better and to really take a collaborative approach to doing our work. Finally, I would like to thank Mr. O.P. Agarwal for his leadership and guidance and encouragement for all our work across WRI-India. So with that, thank you very much for all of you for joining us. We look forward to the next 5 days of exciting conversations. So with that, thank you everyone, and look forward to more exciting conversations at Connect KARO 2021. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Minister.